Thank you so much for joining us for the first of four AI sessions. This one all about exploring planning and preparation. My name is Kerry Abercrombie. I am the Curriculum Development Officer for Digital Learning at Falkirk Council, and I've had the absolute pleasure of knowing many of you already, but for some of you, this is the first time we are meeting. Welcome. We're very, very glad that you are here. I have popped my email address just on the first slide here. Please know that you can get in touch for anything curricular based related to digital learning if you need to, especially if it's anything to do with what we are speaking about today. So let's get started proper then. Today's focus is on the pedagogical use of AI tools, specifically for planning and preparation for learning and teaching. And I have to begin this conversation as I have to begin every conversation about AI in education, and that is with the Falkirk Council AI in Education Guiding Principles and Support information. Now, the QR code on the screen will take you to the AI Education Guiding Principles and Support page. That's a bit of a mouthful. I'm also going to pop a little link into the chat. For those of us who have never seen this before, you do not have to go and read this just now. It's quite a lengthy page. You can absolutely keep that link and go back to it later on. All that we do ask is that you do look at this prior to going off after today and using any of the tools that you see today and using them independently. So when it comes to AI, as with most things in education, different people are at different stages on their journey. And when I was planning for this session, it was really important to me that everybody had an opportunity to learn something. So I have been very lucky to go to many, many, many AI sessions in the past, and most of them have assumed the level that the participants are at. And almost often that assumption is that everybody is using AI for the first time. Now, I have looked at the participant list and I know that to not be true for this particular group. There are some of us who it will be our first time, but there are also people on here who are already using AI regularly in their learning and teaching. So we're going to do things slightly differently today. And I'm sure this method will have its flaws. It's not going to be perfect, but hopefully it will give everybody the chance to take something away. I'm going to ask you just now to think about where you are on your AI journey. To help you identify a position, I have made up sort of three broad groupings, if you like. And we are going to self-select which group we feel we best belong in as we go through each of the tools and each of the activities. We are going to choose every time which group we belong in. But what I want to do just now is I want to show you what those groups are. So these are the broad groupings that we have. We have explorers, and that describes those of us who are just starting out with AI in education. We are curious, we are interested, but we've maybe not really dipped our toes in the water. The focus for explorers during this session is really just discovery. It's discovering these tools, it's figuring out how you can make use of them, it's getting in and having a little initial play around. Navigators are those of us in the group who are already familiar with AI. So you've probably used a tool or a few AI tools before. And the navigator's focus in this session is about trying to direct these tools with a greater purpose or exploring some more complex functions of these AI tools. And finally, we have architects. And this is those of us who are already using AI regularly. And the focus for architects is going to be on building and shaping the use of these AI tools within your own established workflows, with your own specific teaching context and your own specific experience that you already have of AI tools. And since these people are already living and breathing AI, we might also call upon them to offer up some practical advice or wisdom if they are willing to share with us. So as I've already said, you will choose your grouping depending on the tool that we are focused on at the time. So it might be that for Gemini, you are an architect, but that for Notebook LM, you are an explorer. That is absolutely fine. But what I would like us to do just now is have a think about, just generally speaking, in the chat which one of these groups do you think you probably broadly belong in at the moment when you think about just generally your use of AI? And if you could pop that in the chat, that would be really... Now, speaking of the tools, you might be wondering how we have decided to focus on the tools that we have chosen for today's session. If you haven't already seen it, we have released an AI Teacher Tools Starter Suite, which is new for this academic year in Falkirk. And the idea behind it is that navigating the rapidly evolving landscape of AI in education can be so overwhelming, especially for extremely busy educators like yourself. And that starter suite offers a carefully curated collection of 9 free AI power tools which have been assessed to ensure their educational value and ease of initial use. So the hope is that this starter suite provides a practical entry point for busy teachers and establishments who are embarking upon their AI journey. Now, within the starter suite, and you'll know this if you've already had a look at it, we do break down the 9 tools that we have chosen into 4 different categories. And those categories are organised by educational function. And that is because it is absolutely the educational function and the pedagogy that should be driving the use of any digital tool, but particularly AI tools, not the tool itself. We're not just using it for the sake of it. We're not doing it to tick a box. We're not just using AI because everybody's using AI. There has to be a meaning and an educational function behind it. And that's what we would call purpose-driven AI use, which is absolutely the goal for our teachers and our schools. Now, you might have noticed from the structure of the AI sessions that we are doing between now and November, that actually those categories are the catalyst for each one of these sessions. So we are currently at planning and preparation. In a couple of weeks' time, we'll be looking at differentiation and accessibility. And then at the beginning of November, engagement and interaction. And then towards the end of November, we'll be looking at assessment and feedback. We are at the planning and preparation session. So as you can see, if I just go back here, there are 4 tools underneath planning and preparation. And those are Google Gemini, Notebook LM, Magic School and School AI. And the session today is going to be looking at each of these tools in turn and exploring how they can be incorporated into your planning and preparation workflows. So the first tool that we are going to look at then is Google Gemini. And Gemini is accessed via your Glow account. And in the email that I sent prior to this session, we did ask you to ensure that you'd logged in at least once because, full disclosure, there is a known issue with Gemini for first-time users. So I am hoping that you have all managed to log in at least once to Gemini. If you didn't manage to do it before the session, that is absolutely not a problem. You just have to be aware that potentially when you go to log in, you might hit up against a snag. If that happens, we will tell you how to give us the information that we need to resolve it. But please know that it cannot be resolved during the call today because it means that I have to raise a ticket with Glow, and that's not something that I can do obviously right now while we're in the middle of a session. So, Google Gemini, for those of you who don't know, is a large language model or an LLM, which means it's basically Google's version of things like ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, etc., etc. All of those products kind of do basically the same thing. Now, because Gemini is accessed via Glow, you automatically get enterprise-grade data protections when you use Gemini in Glow. So your submissions aren't used to train the model. And this is not the case when you are using a personal account with Gemini, or indeed when you're using a personal account with some of these other LLMs that we've already mentioned. Now, this doesn't mean that you could just go and type in whatever you want. You still do have to be careful with the type of information that you're putting in. It is the user's responsibility to ensure that they are not putting personal sensitive information about children and young people or about the school or about families, etc., etc. into an AI, but logging in via Glow does offer a layer of protection. And this is why Gemini is the LLM that is on the starter suite as opposed to ChatGPT, etc. So as you can see from this slide, there are lots of uses for planning and preparation. And these uses on the screen that you can see here are taken from the starter suite, which does go into a little bit more detail. But you can see we've got things from generating lesson or activity ideas, making sure that you're planning links to the curriculum or to other documentation, such as like the UNCRC or Higgias 4 or whatever it may be, all the way through to things like finding exemplification that really speaks to your learners or adapting existing materials. So before we dive into our first independent hands-on activity, I just want to show you how Gemini works. And if you are sitting there as an explorer, you will be very, pleased that I'm going to show you. If you're a navigator or if you're an architect, you might be rolling your eyes going, Kerry, I use Gemini every day, and that's fine, but we do need to make sure that everybody has a base starting point. So we're going to go pretty quickly, and hopefully that'll give everybody the grounding that they need to be able to just get on and get started. So I am going to access Gemini via Glow. Now I could go to the Gemini website and I could type in my username, but for those of you who are aware of it, the Glow Google username is slightly different to the regular Glow username that you would usually use. And who's got the time to remember another username? Who has got the brain space to figure out that when you go to one website, you use one thing, and when you go to another website, you use another? I certainly don't. So I always go in via Glow, and this is the way that I would recommend that you do it. So I am on my iPad here. As you can see, I'm just going to open Safari, and I am already logged into, of course, I was logged into Glow and it has immediately logged me out, which is really helpful. So I'm going to log in again. Right, I've made it into Glow, and as you can see, I'm on my regular screen that I get to every time I log into Glow. Some of you might not be so familiar with this screen. I'm on this screen every single day. So I'm very familiar with it. But if you're not, I am going to navigate to the Falkirk Council Launchpad. And if you're not sure where that is, hopefully you can see just on the left, there's a little person in green. And when I've tapped on it, it says My Launchpad. This is the launchpad that comes up when you first go in. This is the one that I have chosen the tiles for, I have customized. If I go to the next one down, you'll see that for me, it says Falkirk Central. For you, it will say your school. This is your local launchpad based on the group that you are in within Glow. And the next one down that looks like a sort of Roman or Greek columns is the Falkirk Council Launchpad. And every single person in Falkirk Council should see the same thing when they click on the Falkirk Council Launchpad. Now, on the Falkirk Council Launchpad, you can see that I have the Gemini tile, just 3 along there. And I'm just going to tap on it, and it is going to take me straight into Gemini. I don't have to log in with my Google Workspace account for Glow because I'm already in Glow. It recognises that I am that user and that I do have an account, and it takes me straight through. So this is Gemini, for those who have never been in it before. As you can see, it is a pretty straightforward interface. It looks kind of like Google, actually. And as you can see, it's telling me kind of what I need to do. So it's telling me that I need to enter a prompt for Gemini. So I am going just to type in, I am a P6 teacher. I need 5 retrieval practice questions for chapter 3 of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So I'm going to tell it exactly what I want, and then I'm just going to press that little arrow button on the right hand side, and you will see it'll take a second, and then it's going to come up with some questions. So it's given me exactly what I've asked for just in a couple of minutes. Now, I am a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory aficionado. I think I've taught the book maybe a little bit too many times. And these questions actually kind of look all right, but I'm just going to go back to a previous set of questions that I had generated. And I'll see if you can spot what might be a problem. So here's some retrieval practice questions that I generated earlier. And there is a bit of an issue with two of them. If there are any massive Wonka fans out there, they might be able to see. Any Wonka fans? No? Mary Jane, any ideas?
Not a huge Wonka fan, but I am thinking that there's probably a question in there that's maybe not mentioned in chapter 3.
Yeah, that is exactly it. So question 2, can you name all 4 of Charlie's grandparents and what is unique about where they sleep? That's something that's covered in chapter 1 of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I don't have a huge problem with that because when I'm doing retrieval practice, I actually maybe want to go further back than just the chapter we're looking at. That's not really a problem for me. But the real problem for me is question 4, where they're talking about Charlie's birthday and the gift that he receives for his birthday. And I know for a fact that Charlie's birthday is not until chapter 7 of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And this really highlights an important point, which is that I absolutely need to have a knowledge of the subject material to be able to use this reliably. And this comes back to the really important point about the human in the loop. You can't just get the AI to do everything for you. It needs to be your assistant. It's not replacing you as a teacher. Your human knowledge, your professional knowledge, your human expertise, your professional expertise, all of that needs to be used to carefully check the outputs for accuracy every single time. Now, within Gemini, as many of you will know, down at the bottom of the prompt box, there's this little bar that says Tools. And if I tap on it, you'll see that I get a couple of different options. Now, for our navigators and our architects, this is important that you know where this button is, because this is what you'll be looking at. So we've got Guided Learning, which is new. We've got Deep Research, we've got Create Image, and we have Canvas. And those different things, or those different tools or modes, do different things. Now, I'm not going to go into explaining all of that and what that is, because that's not appropriate for everybody that is on the call today. But I just want you to remember, if you're a navigator or you're an architect, where that little tools button is. Now, if I go back into my presentation, I want to speak very briefly about prompts. So that is what we type into the box in Gemini to make it do the thing we want it to do. And for some of us, figuring out what to type is something that takes just as much time as actually just making the thing yourself. So we have created an education prompt library, which is a resource that is designed to help teachers use AI tools like Gemini more effectively. Think of it as a sort of curated collection of high quality templates for your prompts. So instead of starting from a blank box, you can browse the prompt library for a prompt that is related to a specific task that you want to do, such as creating a lesson plan or generating a quiz, summarizing text, etc., etc. Copy the prompt into Gemini and then customize the prompt by adding the specific details about your class, your subject, or your students. So just to quickly show you what I mean by that, if you're not already on the prompt library, if I go into the lesson plans prompt, you will see that it tells you that a basic prompt would be something like, generate a lesson plan on X topic for this particular class. That isn't very detailed. That's going to yield quite a low quality generic result. But the prompts that we have in here that we've called advanced prompts are very, very specific, and they are very, very specific to Scottish education. So you can see here, this lesson plan prompt says, you're an expert in this stage or subject, teacher in Scotland in the education system, you are proficient in creating engaging, well-developed, effective lesson plans for your learners. Your task is to come up with ideas for X number of lessons. on our unit about this thing, the lesson plans need to be this many minutes each, and they should link to the previous lesson or stand alone, da 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 da. And it's got a whole bunch of information in there that you don't need to type out. All you have to do is copy and paste, and then change it looks yellow on this screen, but it's actually orange on the website, but change those boxes that are in square brackets to fit your specific needs. And what you should get is a much more detailed, much more relevant, high quality output that you can then work with and get down to sort of planning with a little better and a little easier. So hopefully that is useful to you. Some of us are going to actually give the prompt library a wee shot. But what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to an independent task. So it's your turn essentially to have a wee shotty of Gemini. So everybody, if you can, because I can see there's some people in the chat that can't, everybody who can is going to open Google Gemini, and we're just going to take probably, I think, 6 or 7 minutes to independently explore. Now, what you're going to do is going to be based on your self-selected level, and the tasks are on the screen now. So explorers, all I want you to do is, first of all, get in, which might be a challenge. And once you're in, I just want you to generate a list of 5 lesson ideas for a topic that you're going to be teaching next week. And just focus on getting a feel for the tool and its ability to provide that creative starting point. Navigators, you are going to try out some of those advanced prompts from the prompt library. So you're going to go to the prompt library, find a prompt, copy and paste it in, and have a shot of filling in those custom square brackets to try and get it to come up with something that's really specific to the topic or the class that you are teaching. Architects, your task would be to tackle a planning and preparation task that you have never used Gemini for before. So the list is up there at the top of the slide. There's lots of things we can do with Gemini. I know I'm guilty of it. I would class myself as a Gemini architect, but there's things that I'm just like, I've never tried that because I've not had the time to sit and just play with that. So this is your chance to try one of those things that you've not tried before. Or indeed, if you haven't tried the Canvas mode or the deep research or the guided learning, it's your chance to give that a little go just now. Great stuff, folks. Right, so we're going to move on then. And we're going to move on to the next tool, which is Notebook LM. Now, if you haven't seen this before or heard of this before, this tends to be one of the ones that teachers and school leaders go absolutely mental for. Like, they really take a shine to it. And I can see why, because I think this is amazing. So rather than creating new content from scratch based on your prompts and then pulling from its vast knowledge base like Gemini does, what Notebook LM does is it works exclusively with documents or sources that you provide. So you upload your own files, such as policy documents or sources, websites, research that you have, learning materials, SQA course specs, etc., etc. And then Notebook LM can summarize that into key points. It can answer specific questions. It can find connections between the different materials that you've uploaded. And it can also create new materials for you. Now, once again, we're going to start with a very quick 2-minute demo. You will be pleased to hear that the issue with Gemini is not apparently an issue with Notebook LM. So everybody should be able to get into Notebook LM, no problem. So I am on iPad, as I said. I am just using an internet browser. I'm not using an app version. I'm not using anything different to what you would see on your PC or your laptop. So if I just open Safari, and once again, I'm just going to do the glow method, which is the way that I like, where I go to my Launchpad, and I'm logged out again, of course. Let me see if I'm still logged in here. Yes, I'm still logged in, right? So in Glow, I would have tapped on the Notebook LM icon and it would take me straight into Notebook LM. Now, you can see here the first screen that we're met with is all the different notebooks that we have. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap on that big plus above Create New Notebook to make a new one. And the first thing that it's going to ask me is, what sources do you want to use in this notebook? Because remember, it's not going to the internet, it's not going out to its knowledge base, it's only going to use the things that I tell it to use. So you can see that I can upload things from links, I can upload things from my computer or my laptop or my iPad, I can copy and paste text in, and I can also use this Discover Sources button at the top, which we'll come back to in a minute. But I'm just going to upload 2 documents that I already have. So when I tap on Upload Sources, as I'm on iPad, I will get the usual upload screen for iPad, which is this photo library, take video, choose files. If I was on my desktop computer, it would be that normal window that would usually pop up when you're being asked to upload something. So I'm going to select choose files, and it's going to open up my files app of my iPad, and I have 2 documents here that I am just going to select, and I am going to tap on open. Now, just so you know, the documents that I have uploaded were PowerPoints, but NotebookLM doesn't take PowerPoints. So all I've done is I've saved them as PDFs and then uploaded them as PDFs. And you can see here what we get is the sources screen goes away and we're faced with the interface, which is split into 3 sections. So on the very left-hand side, we've got the sources. That's where those 2 documents that I have just uploaded have gone. We then have the chat, which is where we can talk to our documents and interact with them, quite similar to Gemini. And then on the right, we have the studio. And this is actually where I'm going to start because I want to get the studio working away in the background. So in the studio, that is where we can make new materials from the sources that we have put in. So I'm just going to tap on Mind Map because I want a mind map to be generated. I'm also going to tap on Video Overview because I would like a video to be generated. And I'm also going to tap on Reports, which, because it has a little downward arrow, is going to give me more options. And I'm actually going to choose Study Guide for this one. So I'm just going to leave them going in the background, and I'm going to move back over to the very left-hand side, this sources section. So you can see that I have my 2 PDFs that are in there. They're both about rhetorical devices and writing. If I go to the middle, and just like with Gemini, I type something in. So what rhetorical devices are mentioned in these materials? You will see that what NotebookLM will do is it will read those documents really, really quickly, and then it's going to pull out that information. And we can see here, yeah, it's got alliteration, allusion, etc., etc. Now, what else I really like about this is there are little numbers, which might be difficult for you to see, but there are little numbers interspersed within the output. And if I tap on that number, it actually takes me to my original document and the exact place that it has pulled that information from. So not only do I know that it definitely comes from the documents that I've provided, but I can go and see exactly where in the documents that I've provided that information comes from. And I think that that's really, really useful. Now, we did say that you can use the Discover button to add in additional sources, and this can come in really handy when you want to add in something at the last minute. So I have my 2 PowerPoints that are all about writing, but actually maybe I want to bring in an SQA document just to check that I'm definitely doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So if I tap on the left-hand side in the Sources panel, the Discover button, you'll see it brings up an option for me to tell me what it is that I'm interested in. And I'm going to tell it that I want the SQA Higher English marking instructions for assignment, because that is what these 2 PowerPoints relate to. When I hit submit, it's going to look all over the internet for documents and sources that meet that criteria. It's going to always want to put every single one of them in. See how they're all highlighted blue there? I'm just going to check that first blue box so it doesn't put them all in, because I'm looking specifically for the mark scheme, and I can see it here, general marking principles for the portfolio, detailed marking instructions for portfolio. I'm going to tap on it to make it blue, I'm going to import it. And the Notebook LM is going to add it to the sources that I have. And what I can now do is if I go to the bottom and I can say, how will these materials help students to succeed in Higher English Folio? It should then read across all of those documents and give me detailed information about how my resources are meeting the needs of the marking instruction and the sort of expectations of what the children are going to be asked to do. So you can see here, it's got a mix of different things, the documents that I've provided, and it's reading them against the mark scheme and telling me how they fit together, which I think is super, super, super useful. So if I go back to the right-hand side and I go to my studio, I can see that at least 2 of my things are made because they are no longer spinning little circles. My study guide is ready right there at the top, rhetoric and writing. If I tap on that, you'll see that what I have is a study guide that has been made for me. It's got a quiz, it has the answer key, it has essay questions, which actually aren't really relevant in this scenario, glossary of key terms, which would be super, super important for a piece of work that's related to this. So I have really quickly and really easily created the beginnings of something that I can mold and shape to share with learners based entirely off of the materials that I have provided, the materials that I already use in my classroom. And I think that that is such a valuable time saver. If I go to mind map, you will see that I get an automatically created mind map, which has taken all of the information across those 2 sources that we had when we first hit on the mind map button. And it's categorized them and put them into order. And it's also given me a hierarchy. So if I tap on rhetorical devices, just make that bigger for you again, you can see that the mind map has gone down another level. And if I tap on types, it's going to go down into an even further level. And actually, that list of rhetorical devices are the exact rhetorical devices that are within my materials. So I think that that's also really handy to know about. It's not maybe as useful as some of the other things that you can do, particularly for this example, but if you have a knowledge-based subject or you're trying to teach something that's very knowledge heavy, what this can be really good for is putting in your materials and getting an overview of what those materials actually cover. And then you can see where the gaps are. You can see where you maybe need to put in some more stuff about X, Y, or Z. If we have resources about the Titanic, for example, we could look at the mind map really quickly and we would discover that we don't have enough information about the different classes that were on the Titanic, for example. What's also really useful to know is that you can then share this with others. So really good for joint planning if you're working with a stage partner or another teacher within your subject. You can share not only the mind maps, but you can also share entire notebooks as long as the other person has also logged into Notebook LM at least once. So let's see if my video is ready. It is not, but I had anticipated this, so I'm going to go to another notebook which has already been run. So in my pre-prepared notebook, I already have a video. And what you can see is if I tap on it, it's just here in the studio section, just at the bottom. It's called Unforgettable and it's got a little play button. If I tap on it, you will see that I was going to say in a couple of minutes, but it does actually take a wee while to generate video and audio overviews. But in not that long, I have a full 6-minute video that covers all of the stuff that my sources cover. So I'm just going to play this just now and hopefully you'll hear the sound.
Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever wondered why some phrases just stick in your head for years, but others vanish the moment you hear them? Well, today, it's all about creating power through
So you can see a bit American, which is a bit cheesy and people don't like that. But if I just scroll through
contrast.
some of
You take 2 ideas that are total
please stop. If I scroll through some of the slides that it has made for me, you can see I've not had to do anything here, but it's taken all of the information and it has
It's like
created a presentation, which you wouldn't use that to replace your teaching, but certainly when we're thinking about revision materials, when we're thinking about the opportunity for scaffolding for children to be able to see instructions or to see things more than once, the ability to create a range of materials in different formats that maybe suit different children, people who like to watch videos, people who like to listen to podcasts rather than just have their teacher tell them, etc., etc. I don't think I have to labour the point too much about how interesting and useful that is as an option. So in a nutshell, that is what Notebook LM does. Again, we're just going to go back to having a little bit of time to play with it ourselves. So once again, you are going to choose your level. I know that we have a couple of Notebook LM architects on here, so I'm hoping that they're going to maybe be able to come on and give us some insights. But here are the activities for Notebook LM. So our explorers, Notebook LM, you're going to just get logged in and make your first notebook. That's all that you need to focus on doing. Navigators, if you've not had a chance to look at the studio features, the podcast overview, or audio overview, video overview, etc., you can have a look at those now. Architects, we're specifically going to look at the customized audio and video overview tools. So I want you to think about making a resource that's specifically for an audience that you wouldn't normally make a resource for, maybe parents, maybe colleagues, and using that custom button, which is the 3 little dots, to really try and direct Notebook LM to give you an overview that is for a very, very specific purpose. So we're just going to have, I think, again, maybe 7 or 8 minutes to go and look at that. Your time starts now. Excellent. So you'll be pleased to hear that the next 2 tools, given the time as well, are combined together. So we're going to look at Magic School and School AI at the same time. And that is because they are extremely similar. Now, both of these tools appear under more than one educational function within the starter suite. They're both listed under planning and preparation, but they're also both listed under engagement and interaction, and they are both listed under assessment and feedback. So these ones come up over and over again, so we will have time to revisit them for other purposes in other sessions, but we're focusing just today on planning and preparation. Now, both of these tools are what are called a wrapper tool. And that doesn't mean that it's amazing at spitting bars. That means that it is wrapped around a technology that you already know. So it is very similar in terms of the technology behind it to ChatGPT or to Gemini or to Claude or to any of these LLMs. But what it does is it wraps a scaffold around that model, and it provides teachers with different boxes or different drop downs that ask for very specific pieces of information that help them to get to the output that they are looking for. That'll make more sense, I think, when you see it. Now, for some people, they'll prefer a wrapper tool to something like Gemini. Often we find that people starting out on their AI education journey prefer a wrapper tool because it does offer that little bit of support. So if Gemini has overwhelmed you, this might be the one for you. However, people who have spent a lot of time working on their prompting skills and who are used to Gemini don't usually like wrapper tools because they're a bit too restrictive. So it just comes down to preference of, you know, how you like to do things, how you like to operate, what your workflow already looks like. Just quickly before I show you them, I do want to show you this table, which you will have access to with the materials that we'll send on after the session. But this is our handy grade converter, because many tools, not just Magic School and School AI, but many tools default to the American grade system, and we want to provide something that helps you to make that conversion quickly into Scots money. So we have this handy table. I'll pop a link in the chat, but it's worth just having a wee peek just now to see which grade on the USA, the pink column, is the grade or the level that you teach, just so you know when you move over what grade you are going to choose. I've put that link in the chat. Mary Jane will keep an eye on that link and repost it if anybody needs it. But we're going to move on. So we're going to start with Magic School. So I'm going to come out of Keynote and I'm going back into my internet browser. And again, I'm just using the internet browser. I'm not using a special app or anything like that. I am just going to Magic School on the internet browser. That's not Magic School, that's not Book LMS, because I was looking for the link. Sorry, I apologise. I'm just going to get you the links just now so that you can know where to go when I'm speaking if you want to go and look at these websites yourself. Okay, so I am in Magic School, and once I am logged in, and you do have to sign up for an account and it is free for teachers, but once I'm logged in, you can see that on the left-hand side, the little tab that's highlighted is Teacher Tools, and that's where it usually defaults me to. And if I just scroll down, you can see the sheer number of tools that they have available for teachers to use in planning and preparation. So we've got all sorts of things from YouTube video question generators to text levelers to text summarizers to unit plan generators to depth of knowledge questions to social stories, lesson hooks, all different sorts of things. Too much, actually, I would argue, a lot of things to look for. So one thing that's good to know is that when you're on this list, if you tap on the little star, it will add that tool to your favorites. And on the left-hand side, if I go down one from Teacher Tools to My Collections, I can see all of the tools that I have favorited. So the list is a little bit more cohesive, and it's maybe a little bit more useful for me. Now, all of the tools, once you go into them, are kind of the same. They look the same, they kind of function the same. I'm just going to choose this tool recommendations one. That's the first one on my favorites. And to open it up, I just tap on it. And you'll see that it opens up the tool. And what I get is this wrapper. This is exactly what we're speaking about. I don't just get a text box like Gemini. I have a drop-down menu that's asking me what grade I teach. So I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to let's put 10th grade for just now. And then it's telling me what to write in the box. It wants me to say who I am as an educator and what it is that I need. And it even gives me a little example in the box. So I'm just going to type in secondary English teacher looking for tools that help with planning and preparation. Now, obviously, that's not the best prompt in the world, but it should be enough to get us where we're going. If I tap on generate, kind of like when you use Gemini, it will think about it for a little while and then it's going to spit out the information. So you can see here it's listed 5 tools for educators that it can recommend to me. We're not going to look at the magic tools for students just now. That is a later on one. I think that's the assessment and feedback session that covers that. But the tools for educators here, if I just tap on one of them, it's going to take me to that new Magic School tool, and you'll see it looks exactly as I have told you it's going to look. It looks the same as the one we just used, except this time the boxes are slightly different because it's asking me for different types of information. This time it wants me to choose the grade. Because it's a lesson plan, it wants me to give the topic standard or objective. It wants me to add any additional criteria. And it also asks if there are any standards that it wants me to align to. And notice that you can add a file, so you could upload Curriculum for Excellence documents if you wanted to. So All of the different tools have these different boxes that guide you and scaffold you to give the most detailed response that you can. Now, if I want to go and look at what I've told Magic School already, just on the left-hand side, underneath Teacher Tools, underneath My Collections, we've got Output History. And if I tap on that, you'll see that I get a list of all the previous conversations that I've had with Magic School. So I can go back into those, I can edit them, I can continue to talk with, I was going to say ChatGPT, with Magic School about those things. They're always there for me to go back to. Now, another feature of Magic School that is useful for planning and preparation is the Reina chatbot. So if you see where I am on the left, where it's highlighted as Output History, the next main menu tab down, it says Reina brackets chatbot. If I tap on that, I am going to open up Reina, who looks very much like Gemini, except she's got a nice little unicorn hat on and she's very cute, right? Now, what is useful about this is Reina is an AI that has been specifically programmed to understand and know that you are a teacher, and it is specifically programmed to give you advice related to teaching. So it's things like best practice, pedagogy, behaviour management strategies, general advice about learning and teaching. And you could use this the same way that you would use Gemini, except you don't have to tell Reina who you are and what you're looking for, because she already knows that you work in education. So if Gemini was too broad and too scary and too overwhelming, Reina might be a nice alternative for you to dip your toes in until you're ready to move over to Gemini. Now, School AI is very, very similar. I'm just going to move tabs because it should be open here for me. As you can see, once we are logged in, there's lots and lots and lots going on here. But across the top, hopefully you can see the word tools. It's just next to spaces there, the word tools. We will come back to School AI and talk about various different things that School AI does in other sessions, but we're only going to focus on the tools just now. I know that Aileen is dying to come off mute and talk about spaces because she loves them, but we're only focused on tools today because it's the planning and preparation stuff. So if I tap on tools, you will see that I get a similar sort of list of tools that I can use. A much shorter list, to be totally honest, but perhaps for some people that's better because it's not quite so overwhelming. Now, one thing I do like about School AI's interface is that I can see underneath each tool exactly how many times I have used it. So you can see on my screen there, lesson plans, there's 1 document, worksheet, there's 2 documents. So I just have to tap on that number to go back to my previous documents that I have made using School AI. I also have the ability, like in Magic School, to star a tool, and that is going to move it to the top so that it's easy for me to find. So you can see I've now got worksheet starred and story word problems. I'm just going to unstar worksheet just now because I'm actually not a worksheet kind of guy. But I'll keep story problems because story problems is the one we're going to use as an example, because you'll see it's very, very, very similar to Magic School. I'm going to tap on generate underneath story word problems. And you will see that what I get is very similar. It's just boxes where it's asking me to fill in specific information. So let's go for 6th grade. And the topic or objective is multiplication. Let's go for multiplication. And we're going to have 3 questions. And the topic that we're all really into at the moment, and everybody's going to roll their eyes when I do this, but it's Taylor Swift, right? All my kids are obsessed with Taylor Swift at the moment. So I'm going to put Taylor Swift in as the topic. Now you can see that I can also click on the standards, but just a word of caution there is that School AI only does the US standards. So I'm just going to leave that blank because there's no point in me going in. I'm going to tap on generate, and what I should get pretty quickly is at least 3 multiplication sums that are word story problems. So we can see here that we have got that. We've got problem 1 is about Taylor's concert tickets. She's preparing for her big tour. She plans to sell tickets in blocks of 50. If she has 12 concert venues to cover, how many tickets will she need to sell in total? Then we've got some questions about Swifty merchandise. We've got some questions about album sales, and note we've also got little hints for the students on how they can go ahead and solve them. Now, what I should get as well is some custom options, and I can't see those just now. So I'm just going to refresh my page, and what we should see is those custom options come up. There we go, they're there now. So what School AI is actually doing is it's making a document for you. Rather than it be an output that's just kept within Magic School, this is making a document that can then be shared elsewhere. So if I can see at the top where it says share and export, if I tap on share, it's going to copy the link to this Magic School document. And if I go to a new tab and tap in paste and go, you'll see that I could share that link directly with learners, and they would have access to the full document that I want them to work on or work from. No printing, just a link in my Teams or in my Google Classroom that goes straight to the work. How useful, by the way, if you are having different levels of differentiation or scaffolding in terms of worksheets, that there's different links for different levels. Now, for some of us, that might not be the way we want to do it. We might want to actually put it into Teams or to Google Classroom. So the export button does that for us. It allows us to download it as a Google Doc, a Microsoft Word, or a PDF. Just a quick word of warning, it does say Google Classroom there, but unfortunately, many third-party softwares claim to have integration with Google Classroom and Teams, but that is based on the fact that the majority of schools in the majority of countries around the world have their own tenancies for Google Classroom and Teams. In Scotland, we have Glow, which is a national network, which nationally provides those tools for us, and that means that they're nationally administrated by Education Scotland, so we don't have the power that most other places do to turn that integration on or off. So that Google Classroom button is actually useless for you. You also have the little prompt button in the top right, where if I tap on it, you can see I'm going to get the prompt again. If I don't like these Taylor Swift questions, if I actually decide I need Lionel Messi questions, I can just go in and change that and hit regenerate, and it's going to make a whole new document for me. And then I also have, as you would expect, the ability to just tap and change. So I'm just going to change the word pop to superstar. Totally customizable. I can go in and change anything that I want to, anything that I don't like. I also still have some AI tools up in the top left. So if I highlight this paragraph, you'll see that my AI tools button in the top left has turned purple. And you can see that I do have the option to do things like simplify or make shorter or make longer, change the tone. Really important, translate into another language. How useful is that? So lots and lots and lots of different things that I can do within School AI that is going to help me to create and plan for resources and create the resources that I need for the children. Brilliant. So just to finish off, while people are finishing off the form, there is just some signposting at the end. Don't worry about this too much because I will send this to you in an email. But just a reminder of the kind of key things we've looked at today, the AI in Education Guiding Principles and Support document from the very start. You have to look at that if you're going to go and use any of these things. The AI Teacher Tools Starter Suite, which might be very helpful to you if this has piqued your interest and you want to know more. And the Education Prompt Library, which we would love you to spread the word far and wide about, because we think that's a really good resource, and we'd also like to keep building it as we are going along to make it as useful as possible. If you are not already a member of the AI Teacher Network, you are very welcome to join us. By virtue of the fact that you are here, you probably have an interest in this kind of thing. This network is just a space where we can all get together and talk about AI stuff. It's a team space. We can post new things that we find. We can post when there's been updates, etc., etc. You'd be very welcome to join us. If you are interested, the link to the form is on the screen just now. But all that remains to say then is thank you so much for your time today. I know it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but thank you so much for coming. I hope the session has been useful. As I say, we've done it slightly differently to what we might normally do. So in your CPD manager evaluation, please be very honest about whether you liked that or you didn't like that, because that's the only way that we know to maybe change it to not have as many independent sections or whatever. But we hopefully will see you at the next one. We are looking forward to it. We hope that you are too. Thank you very much, folks. Have a safe journey home.